Welcome to the CTA Foundation CES Interview Series. My name is Steve Ewell, and I'm Executive Director of the Consumer Technology Association Foundation. And I'm pleased to be joined today by Nina Robbins, the Program Director, and Allie Silverman, the Vice President of Strategy and Operation at FYI. Welcome, Nina and Allie, and I'm so excited to have both of you at CES this year.
We're thrilled and excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, first off, for those of you that don't know, or for our audience, those of them that don't know about FYI, can you share a little bit about the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Steve, for inviting us to tell a little bit more about who FYI is to the CES community. So FYI is a full-service, New York-based nonprofit media agency that is democratizing advertising and catalyzing community development by building New York's first community media cooperative, which leverages nonprofit real estate, remnant media opportunities, and the power of art and the power of technology to provide grassroots community-based organizations equal access to advertising spaces and advertising talent that has been historically reserved for Fortune 500 companies and other organizations with large media budgets. Unlike other media companies, our goal is not to sell a service or a product, but to connect vulnerable and marginalized populations to information on nonprofit services and programs and policies that can help them improve their quality of life. Our community media cooperative, which we call the PSA Network, is an ecosystem of indoor and outdoor digital billboards that are strategically placed in trusted community spaces like public health clinics and food pantries and hospitals and community centers and other essential organizations that enrich the lives of our community members. And in some, we reach over 1 million New Yorkers from all different backgrounds across the New York metro area. I think the critical point here is that we offer this community-driven advertising platform to nonprofits that have important messages for these audiences completely free. And it happens to be in New York, which is one of the most expensive media markets in the world, and oftentimes the only opportunity for local grassroots organizations to amplify their voices and their messages. And we estimate that we save each nonprofit over $33,000 in media costs for each campaign we run, which for a small nonprofit is a large chunk of their budget. And since our founding in 2005, we've provided over 132 organizations free advertising space on the network on a wide range of quality of life issues that impact New Yorkers. For instance, during COVID-19, we've shared messages about public health guidelines, free unemployment hotlines, nearby food banks, how to properly dispose of PPE, how to fight landlord harassment, how to reduce the harm of domestic violence, and so much more. And as I said, we aim to elevate the voices and messages of organizations that are often overlooked but are critically important. And now with the support of the CTA Foundation, we're actually expanding our community media cooperative and providing grant funding to new nonprofit partners that will be joining our digital PSA network and obtaining their own digital billboards so they can be a part of this movement to build the New York City out-of-home digital town square that connects nonprofits and their audiences with one another.
Well, that is all such important work, and I'm really amazed with the way that you're able to provide these services to nonprofit organizations across the city. You know, a nonprofit media agency is certainly a very different idea, but it is something that is important. We've seen with the organizations that we work with across the country, the challenges with having people understand what services are out there and available to them. And, you know, a lot of nonprofits just not having the ability to pay for that marketing to reach the audiences they're trying to get to. Can you share a little bit about what inspired the creation of FYI?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And thanks for acknowledging that we're a little bit of a different idea, but one that's really needed. Like the CTA Foundation, our founders actually worked at philanthropic institutions who supported a range of social service organizations doing great work, but who often struggled to communicate their programs, both because of budget and because of their own capacity. And FYI offered that solution to this problem of effectively doing outreach to their key audiences. Our birth story is actually a really fun one. The founder was caught in traffic going to a Mets Yankee game and realized that the billboards along the highway, as most billboards are, advertise things that he didn't want or need. And he reflected on the power of promoting public service announcements that were relevant and useful, and began to dream of having one of those billboards along the highway. That idea actually of having one billboard transformed into this PSA network, a network of 100 digital screens and partnerships with community-based organizations, storefronts, and partnerships with ethnic media and other in-print and online advertising slots that provides extensive coverage for PSAs throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City and beyond. And it's a fun story that's true and really resonates with our partners and members who also are bombarded by information that is not necessary and really struggle to find the key pieces that will help them with their lives and livelihoods.
That's an incredible story, and being able to, take being stuck in traffic, which all of us have certainly experienced at times, and be able to turn that into this network, which is able to share so many important stories across so many different communities and important issues. I'm really incredibly impressed. This year has certainly been a challenging year for all of us as we've experienced the pandemic and a number of different issues across society. And I know you play in a lot of the different issues that you're addressing with the PSA network up there. How have you been able to continue to do your work and reach the communities you're trying to reach throughout this year?
Yeah, and again, we thank you for acknowledging the struggles that the nonprofit sector in particular has gone through during COVID and for the people that they serve. FYI staff has been working remotely since March. We're a small and mighty team that we've been able to collaborate and innovate just the same, actually. And our PSA network that Nina described earlier, and one that the CTA Foundation is helping us expand, is grounded in community centers and in organizations that provide essential services to a range of New Yorkers, the majority of which are still open and serving people. So the PSA network is still promoting the same PSAs and even more relevant ones to their audiences. For those PSA network hosts, however, that have not been able to stay open to keep other New Yorkers safe due to COVID, they're all operating remotely. None of them have had to shut the doors, which is a testament to them. And we've partnered with them to leverage their other platforms like their newsletters and social media, even individual phone calls to call people about opportunities that they may not be aware of. As mentioned earlier, this year has proven to us that FYI's work has never been more important, and interest in our pro bono services has increased dramatically as well. Nonprofits are struggling to meet their enlarged demand with their limited budgets. And again, this is part of our founding story, which is we recognize there's not a lot of budget for communications, and that's where FYI comes in. We can be the expert and help them not only with their messaging and create attractive content, but also disseminate it to the targeted people. And so we've seized this opportunity to connect with our old partners and with new organizations to recruit some generous volunteers from the corporate sector who have expertise and they're just excited to share it. And we've been matchmaking with all of our partners and entities to make New York nonprofit sector stronger. And then I think it's worth noting that this year in particular, COVID has certainly been the shadow over everything, but FYI has been working really positively around 2 critical civic engagement campaigns around getting out the count, around the 2020 census and getting out the vote. And the PSA network and those partnerships, new and old, have really helped us achieve these goals even in the darkest times. And we're continuing to provide underserved communities with access to information that is culturally appropriate and from trusted messengers. So while it's been difficult, we've seized the opportunity as our partners have as well.
Well, that's a sign of a really strong organization to be able to make that adaptation and continue to do the great work that you're doing. I'd love to hear a little bit more. You've talked a little bit about technology as part of what you're doing, but what role does technology play in your ability to do the work that you're doing?
Sure. Well, I think technology is really at the foundation of how FYI came about. In 2005, 15 years ago, when the organization was established, the founder began this idea and crystallized this idea for a PSA network that would use new technology around digital signage to raise awareness about programs and services that people simply were not aware of that could improve their quality of lives. And now digital billboards are everywhere. I mean, they're at your restaurants, they're at your dentist's office, they're at your, they're walking, they're, in your view when you're walking down the street. But when FY began, we were really a pioneer in this field, especially in the social impact space, and technology continues to play a huge role in all the work that we do, especially in this rapidly changing sector. There are so many different ways to connect with people, and we're constantly thinking about new and better technologies that we can use in new digital signage solutions to reach and engage New Yorkers in receptive environments. And I think now the challenge that we face, as well as for-profit advertisers face, is how do you cut through all the noise? And we think in a pedestrian city like New York, out-of-home digital signage is still a really worthwhile investment, especially when we're investing in digital billboards that are housed in trusted community spaces that have long-standing relationships with the people they seek to serve. So we are always looking at new out-of-home digital signage technologies to see how we can better engage our growing audience. And also we're thinking about ways to make our more visual medium more accessible to those who are visually impaired through other technologies that can help translate some of the visual PSAs into audio messages.
That's great. And yeah, we certainly will see some coverage of emerging technologies related to displays at CES this year. I've really found it interesting looking at everything from, kiosk technology to, billboard and large screen TVs and other devices that we see at CES each year, and looking at ways that people can interact with those devices in different ways and ensure the accessibility of it's certainly very important to us at the CTA Foundation. Thinking of being here at the all digital CES this year, we're going to see a lot of different emerging technologies coming out, and we're, whether they're the new products that are announced this year or conversations that are going to cover the technologies that are coming down the road and will really change all of our lives in the coming years. Are there areas of technology that you're excited to see coming?
Yeah, we're really excited to learn more at CES, but COVID-19 has actually really pushed us to rethink how we can improve upon our current model. So we're looking at, different types of digital displays that can be integrated into other devices and equipment that serve our audiences. For instance, we're looking at screens that are attached to hand sanitizing stations, and screens that can take your temperature when you walk into an indoor space. Or screens that are attached to blood pressure kiosks. So we're really thinking about the tools and equipment that many people in our audience are using, and how we can integrate digital signage into those types of equipment that will help ensure that we continue to engage in an effective and strategic way.
And on that note, actually, technology is great, but only if the users know how to use it. And so improving digital literacy is something that we're eager to partner with any company or organization that can help us do that with our nonprofit partners and our clientele. We have to make sure that the technology that we put out through the PSA network or adopt just as part of the organization is both culturally sensitive and one that is usable and understandable. One area that we are very hopeful about is improved translation technologies. It's really expensive to translate into different languages, yet it's necessary to reach the diverse population of New Yorkers. Unfortunately, many nonprofits just aren't easily able to afford to translate their important messages. We partner with a few volunteer translation organizations, and there's no replacement for individuals, but translation technologies are starting to offer better opportunities so that we can help influence more people. And we're excited about that. And we're also excited about trying to better connect and understand our audiences, and technology is certainly on its way to help us do that. And like many nonprofits out there, we hope to use technology for good as opposed to invade people's privacy and abuse it.
Well, all of those are really important topics and areas to cover. It's amazing to see some of the translation technologies that are starting to come out. And, you know, it comes with some of the voice technologies that we're seeing as they continue to improve and help us communicate with more people. And it's really about creating some of those connections that are available there. And certainly the conversations that we can have by having organizations like FYI at CES and our other nonprofit partners having the diverse backgrounds and viewpoints. It's always important to create the greater technology that's going to help us all moving down the road. You know, I'd love to have a chance to, you know, if someone is interested in getting involved with the work that you're doing, you know, how would they go about doing that?
First, we're always available to chat. We really love bouncing ideas off of one another and off of new people who either understand or are willing to understand our value add proposition and our mission statement. We love just throwing spaghetti against a wall with smart people, and please give us a call or an email anytime you feel moved to do so. Our website, www.fyi.org, is another really great place to start. We have a gallery of our PSAs, which anyone can download and share. We have a map of our PSA network that highlights our nonprofit partners and their institutions and the work that they do. And then we have impact case studies on our website so you can better understand some of the impact that digital technology and the work that FYI does to get out the good word. You can sign up for our quarterly newsletter and learn more about what we're doing there. And like any organization or corporation, you can follow us on social media to get the minute-by-minute updates on everything that we care about and what's going on. Also, we really care about our partner clients and organizations, and so we'd be happy to refer you to anyone so you can understand from their perspective the work that we've done together and what it means to be a host partner as part of the PSA network. You can hear from them directly.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Nina and Allie, for joining me here today. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you and highlight the great work that FYI is doing. So thank you so much for being here for CES 2021. For the audience, if you're interested in learning more about the CTA Foundation, you can go to ctafoundation.tech. And I hope everyone has a wonderful CES 2021.